In this lesson, we're going to do a few last tightening ups in our document, and we're also going to come in and add some labels for our icons. Okay, so I'm going to just start out with those labels. So let's go ahead, and we don't have anything on that layer 17 yet. I was going to place some pieces of coral on that layer, but we didn't end up doing it in that way, which is fine. So I'm just going to use layer 17 for now to place these titles of the destructive damage elements here. So we've got all of our icons already set up, and then these are actually placed pretty closely in the order of what you're seeing here. So ocean acidification is going to be the first one, so I'm just going to go ahead and copy that, and then we'll just grab our text tool, click and paste that, and it's giving me that bullet, which is not what I want, so I'm going to just kind of come back in here to the side and we'll delete that bullet. And I want to go ahead and use Garamond for these, and I want to use just the all caps that we've been using, but it doesn't have to be, you know, the really tracked out one, because that's not really going to look right. So I'm just going to come down here and we'll eyedrop this, and then come back up here, and let's go ahead and just go into the character panel. It looks like I closed that out, so we'll just come back up here to Window, grab our type, character, and we can just pull this down here. And I'm going to change that so that it's not tracked out so far. And let's just change it to 0. Save us a little bit of time. Maybe a little bit more than that. And it honestly might be a little bit too big sitting at 12. So we could take that down to 10. And even with all caps, you know, this is going over the edge a little bit. So you don't have to use all caps. I mean, it kind of looks nice, but it still looks great to have just lowercase label for that as well. So that's going to fit in your margins a little bit better on the edges. So maybe we should just go with that. And now that I have that piece, I'm just going to go ahead and duplicate this again, just kind of all the way across the way I've been doing all along. And then it'll be really easy for us to just really quickly go in and change the label based on what the word is. Okay, so we have all those set up there. And let's make sure with the paragraph, I want to make sure that these are center aligned. So if the word is any shorter than ocean acidification, it's not going to change the way that that looks. So let's go ahead and select all and change them to that center alignment, and then I'm just going to arrow those over until they're back in the middle again. So right about there. And then let's just go in and start copying and pasting from the document. So I'm going to go ahead and grab coral bleaching from over here, and we know that that's going to be this one right there. So I'm having a little bit of trouble grabbing that. There we go. And just hit Control V to paste that. And I'll just move that over a bit. And the next one is going to be CO2, which is carbon dioxide. So we can copy that, paste that in here. And then we have sedimentation as our next piece. So because we didn't go step by step of designing these, I'm going to just go ahead and show you which ones need which, but it is in the order that you have in the document if you're just kind of going down through the list. So it goes from here to here. So if you don't want to watch this part, you can just skip ahead a little bit, and then we'll be moving on, just tightening up a few last minute things. Careless tourism we did do, so I'll go ahead and still have to put it in here just like all the rest, but you already know that one. And we have destructive fishing practices, so that one was kind of a fun one to come up with. If you read down in the copy, we talk a little bit about blast fishing in this bit of copy that we have just kind of right up there, and it's really kind of interesting that someone would think that that would ever be a good idea. But so blast fishing is a thing, and so that's kind of where we get this sort of mushroom cloud, just to really drive home, you know, that it's a blast. And then we see the little dead fish, and you know, that one didn't actually end up having any coral in it, but it's more about trying to create an icon that conveys what we're talking about in, you know, some of these things here. So some of those labels, that just makes a little bit more sense than having, you know, broken coral in every single one of them, because that's, you know, the result, but we're kind of talking about the cause. So that's some of the reason behind that. Okay, so now that we have all of those in place, you might want to go through and just kind of realign. So maybe grab a piece and do a horizontal align center, just to make sure that that's aligned. I'm not going to go through and show you how to do that on every single one, because you already know how to do that. So just to kind of tighten things up in here, let's just kind of start going through and seeing, you know, if there's anything we need to change. We have quite a bit of extra space right here in this area. So I'm going to go ahead and just take that, and let's nudge this up a bit here and just kind of give us that sense of, you know, we've got just some negative space finally and just really help that to breathe a little bit. So I'm going to leave it where this just feels a little bit more open. You know, we could come in here, maybe select these pieces and move them down a little bit if we wanted to, just so that wasn't quite so tight in there as well. But it's really up to you how you want to redistribute that, if you even need to at all, because your pieces are going to be in slightly different places than mine. But I did notice earlier that that felt really tight in this area here. So just give myself a little bit more breathing room by redistributing that space, instead of saying, oh, I'm just going to make my document a little bit smaller. And we could even maybe use some more space in this area here. So maybe collect all of those together and we can nudge that up. And then this can have a little more breathing room right in here. And one of the things I'm noticing is this feels kind of bare. So we've used that little arrow on these headers to kind of show, you know, this is what we're pointing to. So I think we could add one of those where we see, do people even care what happens? We're talking about this survey. So maybe come in here, grab your triangle tool, or your star tool rather, and instead of having, you know, that star with all those points from the last one, we can just start to drag and then just hit the down arrow, and that's going to give us that same triangle that we had earlier. And I'll just kind of make this just as sort of pointing, you know, do people even care? And then that's what this survey is all about. So just making that look a little bit more interesting there with an extra icon. And if you feel like this is too big, don't forget you can use the scale tool to scale it down while it's still as a graph. But once you've ungrouped that, you can, you know, scale it down as much as you want. I feel like the size of that is really probably okay. Maybe just kind of going down through here. Looks like this sentence has a period after it. You know, there's really no need for that, even though it is a complete sentence, because it's a header. It's just kind of extra, so you can take that away. You could probably take the period away here as well. So it's a lot of these things are up to your own judgment, and then you would just find out, maybe, you know, from your client, if you're doing it for a client, you know, how strictly they want you to stick to some of those kind of rules, just to see how much creative freedom you have. So I've just gone in, you know, and kind of changed a few last minute little things there, just making sure that everything is all tightened up. And, you know, honestly, these pictures feel a little bit big. I could probably come in and just kind of scale them down a little bit more and center them in my columns rather than trying to make them perfectly align with the columns. They're still following the grid by being centered, and then our text is also following the grid just by being there on the side with that left alignment. So maybe give that just a little more breathing room there, just have a little bit more white space is going to definitely look nicer. So now that we have this all finished up, we've really placed everything that we need to. In our next lesson, I'm going to show you how to export this as a PDF so that you can print it and you'll be just really ready to go. And this is pretty much wrapped up. So we'll talk about how to do that in our next lesson.